So let's talk about the things that the Ghost of High Heart told to Arya Stark. The Ghost of High Heart is essentially like a witch in Westeros. One who has visions. In Book 3, A Storm of Swords, she is described as a tiny little woman, a foot shorter than Arya and older than old Nan, all stooped and wrinkled and leaning on a gnarled black cane. Her white hair was so long it came almost to the ground. When the wind gusted, it blew about her head in a fine cloud. Her flesh was whiter, the colour of milk, and it seemed to Arya that her eyes were red, though it was hard to tell from the bushes. The old gods stir and will not let me sleep. I dreamt I saw a shadow with a burning heart butchering a golden stag. I dreamt of a man without a face waiting on a bridge that swayed and swung. On his shoulder perched a drowned crow with seaweed hanging from his wings. I dreamt of a roaring river and a woman that was a fish. Dead she drifted with red tears on her cheeks. But when her eyes did open, oh, I woke from terror. All this I dreamt and more. Do you have gifts for me to pay me for my dreams, she says. This is the first prediction by the Ghost of High Heart. So let's decipher what this means and then we'll move on to the second one. So the shadow with a burning heart butchering a golden stag. That is Stannis and Renly Baratheon. The man without a face waiting on a bridge that swayed and swung. This is the death of Balon Greyjoy, possibly by a faceless man at the behest of Euron Greyjoy, or possibly by Euron himself. The roaring river and a woman that was a fish. This is Catelyn Stark, Lady Stoneheart, after she is resurrected when she is pulled from the river after the Red Wedding. And interestingly, I don't think it's a coincidence that Arya Stark is having a wolf dream where she is in the body of her direwolf Nymeria, who finds Catelyn and drags her from the river. Just saying. That was how Arya found out what had happened to her mother. The second time Arya meets the Ghost of High Heart, she has another set of prophecies, predictions, visions. She shares with Arya that she dreamt a wolf howling in the rain, but no one heard his grief. I dreamt such a clangour, I thought my head might burst. Drums and horns and pipes and screams, but the saddest sound was the little bells. I dreamt of a maid at a feast with purple serpents in her hair, venom dripping from their fangs. And later I dreamt that maid again, slaying a savage giant in a castle built of snow. So, the wolf howling in the rain, no one hearing his grief. I think that is Robb Stark when he is killed and he walks into Grey Wind before Grey Wind is killed. So this is the Red Wedding. The sounds of the drums, the horns, the pipes, the screams. There was a lot of noise in this hall to sound like it was just a party, to disguise the sound of the screams as the massacre took place. The maid at a feast with purple serpents in her hair, venom dripping from their fangs. That is Sansa Stark at the Purple Wedding. And later I dreamt that maid again, slaying a savage giant in a castle built of snow. Now, I've got two theories on this. I think it's either pertaining to Littlefinger or to Robert Arryn. It could be Robert Arryn because he and Sansa were literally like building castles of snow. Is the giant meant to reference the Giant's Lance, which is one of the mountains up by the Eyrie? Is this a prediction that Robert Arryn, he ain't gonna be around for long? Or is it Littlefinger? Because Littlefinger's sigil might be the Mockingbird, but House Baelish's original sigil was the Titan, as in like the Titan of Bravos. That sounds kind of similar to a giant. So maybe he is the giant that Sansa slays. The final thing the Ghost of High Heart says to Arya, she kind of freaks out. Like, she gets a weird vibe from Arya and she says, "You cannot hide from me, child. Come closer now. I see you, wolf child, blood child. I thought it was the Lord who smelled of death. You are cruel to come to my hill, cruel. I gorged on grief at Summerhall. I need none of yours. Begone from here, dark heart, begone." And she does not want to be around Arya at all. She gets a really creepy, sinister vibe from her. The Ghost of High Heart cannot take on any more grief, and Arya is full of grief. She's lost everything at this point. She's lost her family, her mother, her father. Like, she doesn't ever see them ever again. She doesn't know where her siblings are, if they're even alive. She's lost her safety net. And the Ghost of High Heart sees something in Arya, something powerful, something dark that frightens her. So I think this might be a clue to Arya's journey, because it's not that long after this, after her second visit with the ghost of High Heart, that Arya travels to the House of Black and White in Bravos. This is the place where she's going to become no one and learn the true value of life and the true value of death. Is that something that the ghost saw and was freaked out by it because they've experienced so much death and grief themselves that they couldn't take on anyone else's? I don't know, but it feels like it's a nod towards Arya and her whole journey of like self-discovery at the House of Black and White. So that is the story of the Ghost of High Heart and Arya Stark, and what she says to her, and what I think it all means. We've got to be careful with prophecies. We don't want to do a Melisandre and take it the wrong way. But this is a magical world. It does exist, and these things happen that we can't explain. Like, how else does Arya get to be in her dire wolf and seeing what she saw, seeing Catelyn in the river, and it being Nymeria that pulls the body from the river, allowing Lady Stoneheart to be a thing? Death is something that follows Arya Stark around. It haunts her, and it all fits in with what the Ghost of High Heart tells her. Lots of deaths. But Arya is also known by the name Mercy, and so that is the opposite of needless deaths and murders. And I think that is what she is learning at the House of Black and White, what death really means and the gift of death. Who can dispense it and under what conditions? And that's very different from the deaths in Westeros, where people murder for greed and for love and for beliefs. Arya is learning about death in a totally different way. That there is a time and a place for death for people who are suffering, but there are also rules you've got to play by. And nobody gave a shit about the rules when they were slaughtering her family.